Welcome back to Chow Time Pods. Your host, Red. I got a video today from SandraFayeonYT. Here we go.
Shrek theory.
I just posted on my Instagram story about how Shrek is not a fairy tale. It's a cautionary tale, an example of how a woman cannot turn an ogre into a man, but he can make an ogre out of you. Because she started as a princess, she had generational wealth, she could have had a pet dragon. And because she was stuck up there, no hobbies, no friends, the first person she meets is this moody ass stuff.
She was put up there by her own family. What are you talking about, pet dragon? The dragon was there to prevent her from leaving. The only way she had a real life was the ugly ogre came and saved her. That's how she was able to live a normal life. Yes, she lives a normal life, a little uglier, but she still lives a normal life.
Stubborn ogre that basically negs her. She takes that as a sign to get him to like her, and she falls in love with him. He manages to get a princess to settle for him, and
he never wanted to be with her or anything. She used to want to
antisocial outcast, lives in a swamp. Isn't he also unemployed? She's thinking, oh my god, I got the loser to love me. Alienates herself from her family to live with him in a swamp, gets baby trapped. She's also an ogre now, so if she ever wanted to leave him, she's severely limited her potential dating pool.
I don't even know how we could compare this into real life. I mean, yeah, she turned into an ogre because she became a single mom. Is that what you're trying to say? Because do we view single moms ogre-like? I mean, they do have layers.
He's not willing to change anything about himself or the way he lives or to level up in order to provide for her and their family. Did I mention she lives in a swamp when she could have lived in a car?
She chose to live. They always forget there was a choice. She chose all of this. She chose to be with him, chose to live in a swamp, chose to leave the castle.
Also, people try to trick women into not caring about material things, but there really is a level that you need to care about when you're going to raise children, okay? Men can go their whole lives sleeping on the floor, but how are you going to raise children in that kind of environment?
We've done it for ages. You don't think we had? Do you think we had beds this whole time? I think we were raising people on the floor for a very long time.
Be the prettiest and richest girl in the land, and if you don't have a hobby and some friends, you'll end up in the swamp with an ogre, and you'll become an ogre too.
Did you realize the last movie is called Happily Ever After, right?
Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. You can support uncensored
This was about to be a doozy.
Conversations via Cash App or buying your girl a coffee. If you guys have been living under a rock, there's this theory that's been circulating on TikTok about the movie Shrek, and it has the vapid, demanding, unaccountable broads in a complete tizzy, you guys. Essentially, the Shrek theory is basically...
I wasn't sure where Sandra was gonna go with this. This is my first channel seeing with her. I think I'm gonna like her.
Posing Shrek as this kind of bum dude that brings Fiona down and turns her into a bum just like...
The man owned a whole swamp. I don't know how much a swamp costs, probably not that much, but he owned all of it and owned a home right in the dead center of it. And he defended his swamp from fairy tale creatures by saving you.
Like him. And there's so many issues with this narrative. I don't even know where to start. And excuse my voice, I'm still recovering. Your girl's been sick.
She frames the first movie as Shrek being like some type of broke bum, but because he rescued Fiona and he's the first man that she's seen in years, she falls in love with Shrek and ends up becoming an ogre. That's not what happened. Shrek owned land. He owned his own swamp. And then one day he wakes up and there are thousands of fairy tale creatures at his home, on his property. So he goes to Lord Farquaad, and in the process, he proves that he's the most capable champion at fighting. So Lord Farquaad says, you will be my champion. You will rescue the princess. And
which he's being used and abused by Lord Farquaad to do, his bidding.
Shrek's like, I don't want to do that. I just want these people out of my home. So Lord Farquaad says, I'll cut you a deal. If you go rescue the princess, then I'll make sure your home's exactly the way it was before all these creatures came. When Shrek rescues Fiona,
to every slime covered toadstool is what was offered.
They don't like each other. Shrek doesn't like her because,
as you can tell, I know this movie very well because I've watched this thousands of times because this is one of my favorite movies. For people to like trash my favorite movie this way, Shrek was the man.
Because he doesn't like people at this point in the story, and Fiona doesn't like Shrek because she feels like she's getting cheated out of the fairy tale that's been told to her since she was a little kid locked in the tower.
Real life much?
They only start having feelings for one another as they're traveling because they start to find out that they have a lot in common. Because
Correct.
a big aspect of Fiona's character in the first movie is that she does not fit the mold of a traditional princess. She's not a damsel in distress. We find out that she's a very capable fighter.
She beat up Robin Hood.
She was really in the tower by choice. She could have escaped anytime she wanted to. She was just waiting for a Prince Charming.
True.
She knows how to survive in the wilderness. She's not like, traditionally girly or anything like that. Then we get the big reveal that she turns into an ogre at night, and through her conversation with Donkey, we see that this bothers her so much because she feels like she has a societal standard to uphold. She literally says, "How could anyone love me if I'm ugly? Ugly and princess don't go together." She feels like she has to break this curse that her being an ogre is bad, that her, being ugly is wrong, because that is what was pushed onto her since she was
Correct.
a little kid, which we find out in the second movie, specifically her dad pushing that on her. So at the end of Shrek 1, when they confess to one another and the curse is broken, she ends up as an ogre. That's not because of what Shrek wanted. That's because at her heart, that's who she always was. She never identified with the fairy tale princess side that she was pushed onto her.
Remember, it's true love. So they actually truly loved each other, and it made sense that they fit the mold with each other because that's her personality.
She always identified with the ogre side, and that's why she ended up staying the way that she did.
Correct.
It's also crazy how that original video frames Shrek as if he downgraded Fiona's life. Like, the original person went on to say that, like,
yeah, she lived in a tower protected by a dragon that smelled horrible. Brimstone, remember?
Fiona used to be a princess. She used to be rich. She's literally still all of those things. That's literally the entire conflict of Shrek 2. In Shrek 2, we find out that Fiona is the princess of far, far away land. So when her and Shrek go to visit her parents, the king and queen, Shrek feels inferior because he doesn't feel like he's good enough for Fiona. He knows Fiona loves him, but he doesn't feel like an ogre is good enough for a princess. Which is why we see Shrek go on this entire arc to elevate himself so he can be good enough for Fiona. He finds his potion to turn him.
The man tried. The man wanted to be better for her because he thought she was better than him. That sounds a lot like real life. A lot of men try to up their game when they see a woman that is up above their means.
Himself into a human. He turns Donkey into a stallion. I think he became like a knight or something like that. But even after doing all that, there is a part of the movie where the fairy godmother tells Shrek that ogres can't have happy endings, and that if he really loves Fiona, if he wants the best for Fiona, he should let her go. And he does that. He literally leaves. The only reason he comes back is because he finds out that the fairy godmother is obviously evil, and that they were not only manipulating him, but also manipulating Fiona, and he comes to save the day. And at the end of the movie, Shrek is urging Fiona. He's like, Fiona, if you want to stay human, if you want us to live like this for the rest of our lives, we can do that. You just have to kiss me right now. He is urging Fiona because he thinks this is what she wants. And Fiona even says, she was like, you would do that? You would live as a human for the rest of your life for me? And he's like, yes,
The sacrifices that men are willing to make. Yeah. It's not a life that I know and understand, but I'm willing to live it and be in it because of you.
Just want to make you happy. And she says she wants to live as an ogre. She wants to live with the ogre that she married.
This interpretation of Shrek really highlights an issue with modern women of today. They don't look for substance. They want surface level beauty. They want something that looks good rather than focusing on what actually is good. Because on the surface, you think, oh yeah, she's living in a swamp and she's an ogre.
Ah, see, she farted too. They're just fart bombs together. Lovely fart bombs.
Oh my God, that's so terrible. What a terrible life. But if you look underneath the surface and you really examine Shrek as a character, he is literally the man. Like, let's be so real here. We would all be lucky.
Doesn't care what other people think. Does what he needs to do to get his stuff back. He's the man.
To be with a man like Shrek. Shrek owned his own property. Shrek was the strongest, toughest fighter in all the land.
True.
Shrek had an honor about himself.
He
Shrek did what he had to do to protect the woman that was under his care, even though that woman wasn't even his. When the movie was beginning and towards the middle, they're not together, but he is still protecting that woman from whatever danger comes their way. This protector, provider, he literally fits that role, but because he's not aesthetically pleasing to these vapid
Sandra, I'm gonna sub to your channel right now. This was awesome. This was the best.
frauds, and they're like, oh, he's a monster, and he turned Fiona into a monster. And this just goes to show that people are slow. It's not even a context clue. This is something that
I've never seen a Chad Roan Shrek before. No, that man looks good.
the writers of the movie make extraordinarily clear. Fiona wanted to be an ogre. Like, she wanted to be an ogre, but she
likes
felt
the
like
life.
she couldn't
She loves freaking, rotisserie rats.
be an ogre because of society. So it's not even that she was this dainty princess and that's who she was. No, she was putting on, she was faking. That wasn't the real her. The real her was the ogre Fiona, and that is who she truly was. So in
Correct.
the end of the movie, that is what she turned into.
The literacy crisis we are in is not only subject to reading. Literacy and lack of understanding, nuance, and comprehension also skews when it comes to how you ingest media. And this is the issue that we are facing when it comes to this whole Shrek is a cautionary tale think piece that has over 1 million people liking and
Which is crazy.
agreeing, and thousands of people in the comments being like, you know what? I don't
And I can tell you now, Shrek is probably a lot of people's favorite movies. Most people I meet, and I mention Shrek or Shrek lines in, or movie quotes, they know it. They know Shrek. A lot of people like this movie. This movie is a good embodiment of society itself, how much men are willing to do to protect women and, live the life that they want, right? Because he wanted to live a peaceful life in the swamp. What did he do? Go fight a dragon to do that.
And I never thought about it that way. It's because you shouldn't. You
Yeah.
shouldn't think of Shrek as a cautionary tale because that creator, unfortunately, is just loud and wrong. Now, I'm usually not one to go that deep when it comes to animations, right? But since she wants this to be a very deep and woke conversation of taking it that deep,
I mean, Shrek was just making fun of Disney. That's literally what Shrek's movie was an embodiment of Disney, but made fun of, which is the parody of Disney, which I love.
and taking it a step further of, these are the things that we ingested as children that, have fried our mind. And there are a lot of Fionas walking around in the world. Actually,
I mean, in a sense, there's a lot of big girls that look like Fiona out there. This is true.
the point is that there's not, because Shrek is an antithesis of what fairy tales are supposed to be.
Yes.
If anything, it is a big you to Disney and their
Correct.
brainwashing of young girls.
Correct.
What you should look at love to be and what true love really is. Now, she is purposely using the first and the fourth film to, I guess, support her truth in that it's a cautionary tale, right? I don't want to even focus in on those two movies. While they all have great plot points, I want to focus my
It's
analysis
funny because I just recently watched most of the Shrek movies, like in the last couple months. Enjoyed them.
on not only the best film of the franchise, but probably one of the best animated sequels to ever grace our screens, and that is Shrek 2.
I can agree Shrek 2 is pretty good. Not the buttons. The gumdrop buttons.
This movie alone debunks her stance on that Shrek is a cautionary tale, because Shrek 2 actually gives us a deeper dive
Correct.
in the land of fairy tale, right? So as we know, in Shrek 2, it takes place right after Shrek and Fiona got married, after their honeymoon, and Fiona's daddy's like, I'm trying to see you, right? Like, Fiona's like, damn, my parents want to see me. So they travel to far, far away land. And far, far away land is essentially the Hollywood of the fairy tale lands,
Pretty
right?
much.
Like, this is Calabasas. So it essentially shows us that Fiona is that girl of the princesses. Like, Cinderella, Snow White, like her daddy is the ruler of the kingdom, which means that Princess Fiona is like the head of the princesses.
Yep.
And not only that, Far, Far Away Land is a great anecdote of just how vain and vapid and stereotypical Hollywood is.
And like how royalty, society, high society is
right, that fairy tales is truly rooted in appearance and not love and honor and bravery and all that other. It's just all for show, and it's essentially just like who can look the best, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, we fast forward, Shrek and the daddy clearly don't get along, and they get into it. Why? Because Shrek, as Fiona's husband, is like, nigga, you locked your daughter up for years. You ain't call on her, you ain't check on her, you ain't say no carrier pigeon.
As soon as I save her, you call?
And you ain't did nothing to like see her for years. And now you pissy at me? You pissy at me? I saved your daughter.
Mm-hmm. For these vapid broads to really pull that out of the movie, to say, well, you can't turn an ogre into a man, but an ogre can turn you into an ogre. Like, girl, are you slow? Did you not see the second movie? Like, let's be so for real here. Did you not see the second movie? This ogre literally turned into a man for his woman.
And he was a Chad.
Turned into a man to be with her and was willing to give her up if that was what was in her best interest.
Damn right.
He was literally turned into a man. It's just like these broads, they really think they are so highbrow, so intelligent for these dumbass takes. If that is what you're getting from the film, it says more about you than the...
It's just like Sandra, I think they just see things in this feminist... How can I hate men? Where can I find the hate for men in this movie? And they just go through the movie exactly like that. Like, that's just women.
Film itself, because who the sees that movie and comes to the conclusion that Shrek is somehow the bad guy, that
right.
Shrek is doing a disservice to Fiona when he is literally doing everything y'all broads say you want: protector, provider.
Shrek was not a cautionary tale, but I do think that video was. I'm honestly really excited because this is giving me the excuse to talk about monster theory outside of the concept of horror film. But let me slow down. Let me work up to it. And
hey, I'm glad a lot of women are defending the movie, defending the story, and defending like this fuckery. Like not defending it, but like, you know, pushing back on it, because like I said, a lot of people enjoy this movie. You know how many Hispanic women I date, and they tell me Shrek in Spanish is 10 times funnier than in English. And I was like, man, I'm going to start learning Spanish.
The cautionary tale being told there is, I think, that while obviously the media you consume and the art you engage with is not necessarily a direct reflection of your personality or your personal values,
true,
those things will inevitably be exposed when you analyze media.
True.
So if you have some questionable things going on in your worldview, it's gonna pop up, even in something as seemingly harmless as a conversation about Shrek. Not that I think all film criticism or opinions on movies put out on the internet need to be phrased this way. I think there's room in the world for silly, goofy, fun criticism and hot takes on...
I mean, how many fan theories do we have of all of these animes, of all these Disney movies and stuff, of SpongeBob, of why people live like SpongeBob, nuclear events and stuff like that. People think about these things.
Art, I think that's okay as long as it's done ethically and responsibly. But if you were to turn in an essay, right, about the movie Shrek, where your thesis or your main argument was basically that Shrek is a cautionary tale about how men don't change for women, they turn women into monsters, one of the first things your professor would expect you to provide is an in-depth explanation of how and why you are identifying Shrek as the monster in that film. And that's actually what I want to zoom in on here, because my issue with the take that Shrek is a cautionary tale about how men turn women into monsters is not actually with the argument or the assertion that Shrek and Fiona are monsters. I think that argument holds weight for, at the risk of sounding rude, a lot of reasons the original poster may not have even thought of. My issue is with the reasons, the explanation, and the definition that person really puts forth of what a monster is in her view.
Ugly person?
A lot of this conversation so far, in my opinion, has been a conversation about like dominant versus oppositional reads. Even if I agree ideologically with what a lot of people just presenting the dominant read are saying, right? Like, I think the idea that that take is just incorrect because that's not what Shrek was supposed to be about is worth pointing out. I fundamentally disagree with approaching art that way, or the idea that there was one true or one correct interpretation of any film, particularly something that makes such heavy use of fairy tale symbolism as Shrek. Calling Shrek a cautionary tale is an oppositional read, right? It is a read or an analysis of the film that focuses more heavily on that audience member's interpretation of the story over what the filmmakers may or may not have been trying to communicate. And I want to continue to reiterate that I don't think searching for dominant versus oppositional reading is a question of right or wrong. It's a question of being conscious of when and where you are presenting those particular reads and what it means to have an oppositional read. When you...
I'm a little lost, guys. She's saying bigger words than my brain can handle right now.
Stop looking for the filmmaker or creator's intentions. We are now talking about you and your worldview, and that's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact...
Yes, okay, now I gotta get it. Yeah, her worldview is quite cynical when it comes to men. Again, it's that man-hating ideology just seeping into everything in life. Even Shrek.
It's something the internet loves. The internet loves when people present an oppositional take about a film that makes them think differently or see it from a completely different perspective. I know, because that's what I built my platform on, at the risk of sounding arrogant. The problem with the take that Shrek is a cautionary tale is that that is an oppositional read rooted in a worldview that is way more similar to Lord Farquaad's than I think that initial poster wants to admit.
And this is another part of it. These broads will think for you. And this is why I struggle with female friendships. This is why it's very hard to be in community with a lot of broads, is because they want to think for you. You could be happy and content with a good man, and they will somehow find a way to try to tell you that he's not doing what he's supposed to do and you should ask for better. And you saw this with the whole Valentine's Day thing. Blunt Girlie, she did a wonderful video on this. I will link it down in the description. But you essentially had these broads over here complaining about roses on the bed. And it's like, for years, that has always been like something so romantic. But now these broads want to tell you how to feel about your relationship, about the romantic gestures that your man is doing for you. The woman in the video, she probably liked it. You saw she laughed. That might have been the vibe between the two. For him to write something like face down, booty up. That could be something that
Man, I'm loving you, Sandra. You're awesome.
that is within their relationship, and she finds it entertaining, and she would probably write something similar to him if the roles were reversed, because that's their relationship. But no, you have broads online trying to think for her, trying to tell her
misery loves company.
This is degrading. You shouldn't accept this. You should raise your standard. Like, what are we talking about here? Y'all broads really want to think for other women. These heifers are trying to think for Fiona, even though out her own mouth she says that this is what she wants. She wants to be an ogre. She wants to be with Shrek, and Shrek is doing right by her. To say that he baby trapped her is even crazier, because guess who wanted
the baby trap thing? Was so crazy.
The baby. Who wanted the baby? Fiona did. And see, this also highlights another part. These broads infantilize themselves. They act like women cannot make decisions of their own. They act like the decisions that women make are somehow because of men. They want to remove accountability from women. So whenever
that's why they say decenter men.
Whenever women make a decision that they don't like, or that other women say they shouldn't like, then it's the man's fault. That's why they have this whole framing of the ogre turned the princess into an ogre, rather than the princess decided to be an ogre. They want to remove your accountability, your sense of control over your situation, because if I'm unaccountable, if things are just happening to me, then I'm always a victim. And that's the problem. And you see this with a lot of different communities, but right now we're talking about women. This desire to be a victim in every situation is sick. Why do you see Fiona as some type of victim? She has a family.
She also has a mustache and a beard, just like a freaking Shrek.
Girl has a family. She can roll out to the kingdom anytime she wants. What are we talking about?
Dude, she has a flying dragon at her disposal to just fly home.
out here. She has a man who loves and respects her, who fights for her, who will go out of his way to make sure she is happy. What is the problem here? And then these same bras will wonder why they are in failed relationship after failed relationship after failed
Every time I see that Chad Road Shrek, man.
relationship. It's because you passed up on your Shrek. It's because you did not recognize when you had a Shrek in your life and he was there to be with you, to be for you.
Remember, they always seem, they make it like it's just looks. It's pretty much looks. Everything is about looks. He looks horrible and he turned her ugly. So now they're both ugly. It's because of him. That's why a lot of women are just only seeing.
To be a good man to you or a good ogre to you. But you want aesthetics more than you want a real relationship. So that's why these heifers will vie for and try to get with a Lord Farquaad and think that that situation is somehow better. Some jackass who's going to put the protecting and providing onto somebody else so that it can aesthetically look good by being in a kingdom with subjects and all this other crap. This whole situation, it really reveals what women's priorities are.
Yeah.
The priority is for things to look good, not necessarily for it to be good. It's very
That Instagram lifestyle.
surface level, and that's why I call a lot of these broads vapid. That's why I call a lot of these broads infants. They act like children because that is the mindset of a child. Let me put it to you this way. I could hand a child $100 bill, or I could hand them 100 pennies. Guess what they're going to choose? They're going to choose what looks like it's more. They're going to choose the 100 pennies because it looks like it's more.
It's a handful
even
of
though
pennies.
the $100 bill, even though it's one, it's worth more. And that's the problem with these heifers. They will choose the 100 pennies over the $100 bill just because the 100 pennies looks like it's more. Y'all need to put some respect on Shrek's name, okay? We will not be having any
Shout outs to Sandra. Put some respect on our man's name.
Shrek slander over here. If you're a real woman, you saw Shrek, you know what I know. We all want a Shrek in our lives. For the single women out here, this message is for you because I already got my Shrek and I'll be an ogre any day with my good ogre man. But y'all, I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. How do you feel about the Shrek theory? Do you agree with the delusional broads where it's like, yeah, Shrek is a villain and he turned Fiona into an ogre and ruined her
have to cover
life?
way more of her
Or
videos
are you
now.
literate and understand basic logic in a movie and understand that Shrek is literally like the best type of guy you could possibly be with because he's actually like a protector, provider, and he's emotionally intelligent. But y'all, I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. If you like the video, like the video. The more you interact with
Shout outs to Sandra. Wonderful take, wonderful video, hilarious Chad Roan Shrek. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw that. I got giddy. I was just like, me getting giddy over a stupid Shrek photo. But shout outs to you, wonderful channel, and I'll be covering more of your videos. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that, and catch you guys next time. Ciao.